Released by Konami in 2002 on the Game Boy Advance, Castlevania Harmony of Dissonance would conclude the story of Simon's curse. Directed by Takashi Takeda and written by Koji Igarashi, the game would combine the story of the newest Belmont with game design modeled after Symphony in the Night. For story, the game features a young prodigy named Juste Belmont, as it takes place after Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest, but before Castlevania Rondo of Blood. For gameplay, the game is an action-adventure requiring the player to fight and explore their way through two versions of an interconnected castle. For combat, Juste utilizes the whip and can spin it in 360 degrees while utilizing spells and sub-weapons, and unique combinations of both. Money can be collected and spent in a shop, and there is a collectible side quest to decorate a room with furniture. Like Symphony of the Night, emphasis is on navigating interconnected rooms, obtaining equipment for combat and exploration, and increasing ability scores with experience from combat. In addition, after the game is beaten, a new playthrough can be done with Juste's friend, Maxim, utilizing his signature stellar sword and unique abilities. The story only gets larger from here, so let's cut it down to size with a recapitation. Set in the year 1748, it's been 50 years since Simon Belmont's quest to dispel Dracula's lingering curse. Taking up the mantle of the Belmont clan is Juste Belmont, a young prodigy and exceptional spellcaster thanks to the strong Belnate's blood within him, as well as a proven warrior, having earned the vampire killer whip at the young age of 16. One day, Juste's best friend Maxim, who went missing 2 years ago during a training expedition, suddenly turns up addled and seriously wounded. He tells Juste that their mutual childhood friend, a girl named Lydie, has been kidnapped. Still recovering, Maxim leads Juste to where he thinks she is, taking him to an unknown castle covered in a foreboding fog. Wondering if it's the fabled Dracula's castle, the two friends prepare to head inside, when Maxim's injuries delay him, urging Juste to go on ahead as Maxim assures him that he'll catch up. Sliding along the storm-slick stones, Juste is greeted by an imposing guardian armor, and forced to quickly dash into the castle, he sees the keep is hardly empty. Venturing into the maze-like marble corridors, Juste is halted by the Grim Reaper himself, who peers into the young man's soul and sees he is the Belmont. Juste is surprised to see Death in person, though this confirms his suspicions of this being Dracula's castle. Death actually wonders about that, since the power here, though great, is not that of his lord. Not sure what it means himself, Death takes his leave, saying they'll talk again later as a confused Juste is left with more questions. Striking down a giant bat, Juste combines his magic with martial might via spellbooks hidden around the castle. Working through the race among Wailing Way, Juste enters the Shrine of the Apostates, where he spots Maxim, asking if he's feeling any better. Maxim appears dazed and confused, stating he thinks he may have been in this castle before, but his memory is strangely foggy. Still, he wants to press on, thinking more of his memory may return if he sees something familiar. Juste offers they travel together, but Maxim insists they split up to find Lydie faster. The young Belmont chooses to trust in his friend and agrees, as Maxim heads off. Toppling a living armor and kicksliding through a room full of illusions, Juste finds a strange mirror. As it takes him inside, Juste finds himself still within the castle, but notices something feels off. Shoving a gate guardian down the stairs, he encounters a merchant setting up shop and questions why he's here. The merchant replies all he knows is that he was swept up by a dense fog and ended up here, but since he's a traveling merchant anyway, it doesn't change the fact that he can still do business, revealing his wares to the warrior. Within the castle treasury, Juste reveals his fancy for fine furniture, finding a well-crafted chair, and later discovering a room where he can show off one more of his many talents, interior decorating. The hallways lead to the jaws of a giant beast, and stepping within, Juste drops through the ribcage tunnels to find rooms decorated with countless skulls, from monstrously huge to demonic in nature. He bumps into Maxim again and asks for an update, but is met instead with a fierce glare and accusation that Juste is actually one of Lydie's captors. Maxim speaks distantly to a confused Juste, but is determined to protect Lydie from him with the new powers he gained that make him more powerful than Juste. He leaves to seek Lydie, though Juste finds him awfully suspicious, choosing to follow him now but delayed by a duel with a Skull Knight and a golem. After ascending a waterfall of blood, Juste finds another mirror, and traveling through finds himself in the sky walkway where he meets Maxim again. Maxim appears calm and normal, and Juste suspects something is going on. This Maxim tells him he hasn't found any leads on Lydie yet, but his memory is slowly returning, and is certain now that she is here and he has been here before. He confesses now when Juste earned the title of Vampire Hunter, he felt a wall had come up between them, and to prove himself he set out on his expedition years ago. He wanted to be better than Juste, but he also wanted to relieve him of his heavy fate. He reminds his friend that long ago, Juste told him of his grandfather Simon's quest to retrieve Dracula's remains in order to destroy him again, and wanted to recreate that endeavor. What better way to prove he was the better vampire hunter than killing the Prince of Darkness himself? Alarmed, Juste realizes the remains in his castle are the real deal then, and Maxim shares that his memory is fuzzy beyond that point, only recalling that Lydie was definitely brought here. Juste concludes Castlevania is therefore rising in response to Dracula's remains, and Maxim apologizes for his foolishness. Juste tells him to save his apology for Lydie when they find her, as he still trusts his friend, and Maxim hurries off on his own. Climbing upwards to the Chapel of Dissonance, beyond the steeples of stained glass lurk a devil that Juste defeats, gaining goggles that allow him to see a little in the dark. Now descending into the dismal depths of a deadly dungeon, Juste dives into the Aqueduct of Dragons. Familiar fishermen jump up to ambush him, but the mermen fail to stop the warrior even with their giant leader behind them. Ascending the winding clock tower, the size of his foes only grows as he strikes down a slime escaped from its container. It's not too long before he is met by Death again, who thinks Maxim collected objects containing Dracula's power, and when Juste confirms them to be Dracula's remains, Death is pleasantly surprised to have his suspicion confirmed. In return for answering one of his questions, he offers an explanation, revealing this castle is actually one fabricated from Maxim's will. Normally, he couldn't do it on his own, but with Dracula's remains, creating a mansion, much less a castle, is easy enough. He mentions the castle's two spirits now embody Dracula's powers, and wondering what he means, Death elaborates that two spirits now inhabit Maxim, his own, and an evil spirit born from using the remains. Juste doesn't believe that, but Death adds that two castles were created to embody the two spirits, though this was more the evil spirit's decision. Juste is surprised to even hear there are two castles, and Death mocks him for not noticing the split layers accessible through these portals. Laughing, he leaves to aid in the castle's completion, and following him, Juste sees he was telling the truth. Exploring the oddities of the second floor, his foes only grow more numerous as he crushes the many eyeballs of a giant peeper and tears apart the bodies around a looming Legion Saint. Finding he catches up to Maxim first, Juste quickly catches the sneering man before him is the Dark Maxim, as he claims he truly is Maxim, just all of his suppressed desires made real thanks to the power of Dracula's remains. Juste wonders if he is the true kidnapper of Lydie, and Dark Maxim proudly admits it, claiming Lydie belongs to him. However, because the original Maxim forgot where she was hidden, he also cannot remember and waits until he does. Not only that, if he dies, so too does the original Maxim, frustrating Juste as he quickly leaves a shape-shifting shadow for the vampire hunter to deal with. Going back through the portal, he finds the true Maxim, who is aware of his other self and embarrassed to admit he truly is a part of him that almost took him over entirely with the overwhelming strength of Dracula. When Dark Maxim took Lydie and forged a castle from his own mind, Maxim thought to hide her by inducing his own memory loss, and thus was protecting her as best he could. However, this has failed, as he now remembers where she is, in Lord Dracula's room, and hands Juste a bracelet he can use to gain entrance. Concerned, Juste promises to save not only Lydie, but come back for Maxim too. Climbing a red-carpeted stairway, the vampire hunter sees an empty throne room, but not for long as a powerful Pazuzu bursts through the wall, only to be promptly put down. Just beyond, Juste finally finds his friend Lydie, who is alive and well thanks to Maxim's efforts to hide her. She asks what happened to the person who brought her here, as she was blindfolded when she was kidnapped, and doesn't know more. Just when they are about to begin their escape, Death now appears, laughing, quickly snatching Lydie away for himself and getting away before Juste can react. Breaking the blockade of a Minotaur and Legion corpse, Juste is on Death's doorstep, though the Grim Reaper openly tells him he took her to Maxim, as she has an essential role to play in the completion of the castle. Elaborating, Death explains the castle is still in a transient state in preparation for Dracula's resurrection, and will be complete once both castles have merged. In order to do so, Maxim's split spirit must be gotten rid of. Shaking his fist, Juste asserts that his friend is no pushover, and Death actually agrees, mentioning the power gained from Dracula's remains is not to be underestimated. However, he also knows the more something matters to you, the more potent it becomes, and Juste realizes he intends to use Lydie's blood as part of the upcoming ritual. Refusing to allow that to happen, the two finally duel, as Death assumes a serpentine form, but Juste still seizes the sizable win. As Death withdraws and mocks his efforts, Juste is met again by the giant gatekeeper armor from whence it fell, and quickly topples a titanic Talos. Hurrying to the heart of the castle, Juste readies himself with all of Dracula's remains recovered personally, and wears the pair of bracelets he's held onto from his friend all these years. He arrives just in time to interrupt a recombined Maxim, but with the darkness overtaken him, as he feeds on the blood of Lydie. Acting quickly, the two hunters lock blades as Juste overcomes his friend's prowess enhanced by overwhelming dark powers. As Juste strikes him down, Maxim's original personality comes through for a fleeting moment, noticing the bracelets on Juste. Maxim struggles within himself as his personalities clash, and his strength of will surprises even his dark half, though he begs to be finished off by Juste. At this time, the Dark Spirit senses the complete collection of Dracula's remains on Juste and sees an opportunity, releasing Maxim's body and moving to combine with the remains, forming a wraith in Dracula's visage. The undead notes the lack of stability and thinks Juste's Belmont blood will help with that, but the young warrior steps forward, primed to do what he's been trained to do. The Belmont prodigy smashes the persistent corpse of the vampire lord as the body parts mutate into an oversized abomination. Easily winning, Juste jeers at what a joke the evil spirit was, and as it dies, the evil spirit spits back that Juste is a prisoner to destiny too. As the trio quickly leave Castlevania, they look on as the keep collapses onto itself. Maxim's body and mind are restored to him again, and Juste compliments his mental fortitude, though Maxim states his friends were his power. Checking on Lydie, Juste sees she's alive and okay, as her bite marks and curse lifted when Dracula was vanquished. Maxim apologizes for the whole ordeal, but Juste puts it behind them as Lydie comes to. She thinks Maxim had bitten her, but Juste covers for his friend, insisting she was just imagining things and it was all just a bad dream. Maxim starts to tell the truth, but Juste interrupts, and the two bicker just like old times. Getting between them, Lydie offers they go and celebrate their reunion, and as the sun rises on a new day, the friends leave their most recent adventure behind them. Castlevania Harmony of Dissonance has enjoyed the success of selling over 260,000 copies worldwide.